At an art gallery in New York, Thomas is with his best friend and longtime crush Mimi. He invites her to dinner at his place, but she declines. As they talk, it's revealed that they once had a brief affair while Mimi's boyfriend was away. Thomas admits he loves her, but she turns him down, saying they're just friends. One day, Thomas meets a man named W.F. Gerald, who has just moved into the same building. Gerald quickly figures out that Thomas is troubled over a girl. Later, Thomas confides in him about Mimi, saying he's deeply in love with her even though she already has a boyfriend. With his wisdom and experience, Gerald advises him to make her fear losing him. That evening, his mother Judith hosts a dinner for her artist friends. His father, Ethan, a publisher, complains about how writers today barely make money and says he'd hate for his son to become one. He further embarrasses Thomas by bringing up how he dropped out of college and is now directionless, working only as a part-time tutor. One night at a bar, Thomas tells Mimi about Gerald and how quickly they became close. A little later, he spots his father dining with a beautiful woman and witnesses him kissing her. He tells Mimi that his father's affair would crush his mother, who struggles with her mental health. While she comforts him, Thomas kisses her, but she stops him, and he leaves. He invites his father to lunch, planning to confront him, but fails to do it. Instead, his father scolds him for living in a shabby apartment and tells him to change his career. Thomas later tells Gerald about his father's affair, saying his father dislikes him and that he can't bring himself to confront him. Thomas and Mimi spy outside Ethan's office. Soon, they see his mistress coming out. He leaves Mimi and secretly follows the woman. He spends the day tailing her, and as he watches, he starts feeling drawn to her. Gerald warns him that he's crossing the line into stalking, but Thomas insists he's only doing it for his mother's sake. The old man doesn't believe him, saying he wants something else from the woman. One day, Thomas finally approaches her, shocked when she reveals she already knows he's been following her. She also knows he's Ethan's son because his father keeps a picture of him on his desk. She later invites him to lunch, where he learns her name is Johanna. Johanna is a freelance editor and has been involved with Ethan for over a year. Thomas tries to convince her to leave his father for his mother's sake, but she catches him off guard by saying he's the one trying to get close to her. Thomas blushes and can't respond. He spends the afternoon with his mother, simply listening as she talks about random things. Eventually, she breaks down in tears, saying she doesn't know what she would do without him. Thomas tells Gerald about his encounter with Johanna. The old man advises him to confront his father instead of his father's mistress, hinting that what Thomas really wants is to be with her himself. Thomas denies it, calling the idea sick. Gerald tells him to be honest for once, and after pressing him again, Thomas finally admits it. Thomas and Mimi attend a friend's wedding party, where they're introduced to a wealthy man. Later, the man introduces his date, and it turns out to be Johanna. She later tells Thomas she's not romantically involved with the man, but he doesn't believe her and suggests she's being paid for her company. Johanna, offended, storms off. Thomas apologizes, and Johanna explains that the man is actually gay and only brings her to public events for business appearances. She calls Thomas foolish and immature, and he suddenly kisses her. She kisses him back, and the two share a passionate moment. They start seeing each other more often, leaving Mimi feeling left out. Thomas is surprised at how much Johanna knows about him. She admits it's because his father keeps his awards in his office. Thomas then tells her that since childhood, he's loved writing, but his father always discouraged him, saying his work was nothing special. Thomas shows his writing to Gerald, who thinks he's talented. Still, Gerald adds that since his father is a publisher and he's just a nobody, his opinion may not matter much. Thomas says he might be in love with Johanna, but Gerald replies that love is hard to define. He shares that he once loved a woman too, but she belonged to his close friend, and the whole situation became messy, so he ran away. One day, Thomas visits Gerald's apartment but finds him gone. There, he discovers a manuscript titled The Only Living Boy in New York. It turns out Gerald is an author, and he's been writing a story about Thomas all along. One night, Thomas goes to Johanna's apartment but finds she isn't home. He later discovers she's having an intimate dinner with his father. Thomas confronts Johanna and asks her to stop seeing Ethan, but she gets angry, saying he has no right to control her. As days pass, Thomas notices his father becoming more obsessed with Johanna. He tells Gerald it needs to end. Gerald warns him that he also needs to stop, because he's suffering from the same problem as his father, being consumed by Johanna. Thomas then invites him to a party at his father's publishing company, saying it might help his career. On the way to the event, Mimi tells Thomas she's broken up with her boyfriend, but she's surprised when Thomas doesn't seem thrilled about it. At the party, Thomas spots Gerald and asks his mother to meet him, but before she can, Gerald disappears. On the rooftop, Johanna is standing alone when Gerald approaches her. He warns that if she ever hurts Thomas, she'll have to deal with him. Frightened, Johanna walks away. Later, Johanna tells Thomas they need to stop seeing each other because his father has proposed to her. Thomas gets furious, saying he won't let his father abandon his mother. He goes to confront him but sees his mother with Ethan and walks away instead. Outside, Mimi follows him and confesses she's fallen in love with him. Standing under the rain, she expects him to kiss her, but instead, he confesses that he's been with Johanna. Mimi refuses to believe it, saying he's not that kind of man. Thomas insists it's true, and she leaves in tears. The next morning, Thomas storms into his father's office and tells him everything, that he has slept with Johanna multiple times. Ethan is furious and walks out. Left alone, Johanna quietly admits that she truly loves Ethan. Before leaving, Johanna tells Thomas that he doesn't really know the full story. She hands him a framed newspaper clipping of him winning a tennis match years ago, and he notices Gerald in the audience. Thomas goes to see Gerald and gives him the clipping. He then asks about the story of the only living boy in New York. Gerald explains that it began with 3 close friends, 2 men and a beautiful woman. One of the men won the woman's heart. They married and planned to start a family. But there was a problem. The husband was infertile. So, they asked their other friend for help. He agreed, but while being close to the wife, he fell in love with her. Things spiraled out of control, and he eventually ran away. The woman later gave birth to a son, and the man who left could only watch the boy grow from afar. Realizing the truth, Thomas hugs Gerald tightly as the old man breaks down in tears. That night, Thomas tells his mother that he now understands why she's been depressed. She has loved someone else all this time and visits the park daily to read his books. Judith admits she kept it secret to protect Thomas. She says if that man ever returned, everything would fall apart again. But Thomas replies that things are already a mess, so there's nothing left to lose. Judith smiles, finally feeling at peace. A year later, Thomas has started writing and receives his first rejection letter. One day, Ethan visits the bookstore where Thomas works and asks him about the only living boy in New York. Thomas says the character who affected him most was the father who didn't run away, hinting at Ethan himself. His father fights back tears. They walk together in the park, and Ethan offers to use his publishing connections to help him, but Thomas declines, saying he wants to build his own path. He then asks if Ethan is still seeing Johanna. Ethan says no, but they both laugh when Thomas realizes he's lying. Later, Gerald begins dating Judith, and Thomas sees them at his book signing event, where Gerald reads passages from his new novel. Seeing them together, Gerald smiles, happy that, at last, everyone has found peace.